All right, I'm sure I'm not the only one who looks back on the days of alchemy and other like weird magic science, weird science, and thinks that essentially if you look at like a bell curve and you put a line right in the middle and you label that line what we know, and then everything in front of the bell curve could be called science and everything behind the bell curve could be called magic, or vice versa. You can see one side is what you would think of being the science that we don't yet understand or don't yet get why it's scientific, so we say it's magic. Like old alchemy. Now you know that just dumping a penny into some zinc will make it gold, but it's not really gold. Here's some science that you probably didn't know about. Honeybees, very popular over the last decade and a half. You probably remember President Obama making a huge deal about what are we doing for the bees? We gotta decide what we're gonna do with the bees. So bees are a big deal, right? We gotta protect the honeybee. This from Dezeen. This is a design website. So completely apolitical story here. This is the Dutch Week Design 2013. This is not a new story, but it is exciting all the same. Portuguese designer Susana Soares has developed a device for detecting cancer and other serious diseases using trained bees. So if you have had a little inkling of a conspiracy hatching in your brain that says they probably have a cure to cancer at this point, because Susan G. Komen gets like $50 billion a year and doesn't ever donate to research, so surely they don't need to do research anymore. They must have a cure. Same with AIDS, same with other things. Magic Johnson doesn't even test positive with HIV anymore. Don't you think they have a cure? And don't you think they've probably known secretly like how to find these cures throughout history and that we're all just kind of kept in the dark? This says the bees are placed in a glass chamber, so honeybees that can smell like no other animal in the world. Bees are placed in a glass chamber in which a patient exhales, and then the bees will fly into a smaller second chamber if they detect cancer in the person's breath. They say, quote, trained bees only rush into the smaller chamber if they detect the odor in the patient's breath has been that they've been trained to target. So if they're trained to smell for cancer cells, then that's what they're going to smell. This says scientists have found that honeybees, Apis mellifera, have an extraordinary sense of smell that is more acute than that of a sniffer dog rather. A dog sniffer, can you imagine a guy just smelling dogs? No, but a sniffer dog, and can detect airborne molecules in the parts per trillion. I think a sniffer dog does parts per billion. So you think about a drug sniffing dog, or even more related to this, if you're a really new age diabetic patient, there's a good chance that you've heard about dogs being trained to smell your sugar in your blood through your skin and detect whether or not your blood drops too low, your blood sugar. So it says bees can be trained to detect specific chemical odors, including those biomarkers associated with diseases such as TB, as tuberculosis, other lung, skin, and pancreatic cancers. I wonder if they can detect film cancer. Bees also have been trained to detect explosives by a company called Insectinel. Ooh, like Sentinel? I got it, like a sentry. I'm a sentinel. Only they're Insectinel. Is training sniffer bees in counter-terrorist operations. Dang! That's pretty sweet. I think it would be cool if you could like LoJack an entire hive of bees and then program them and train them. That'd be interesting. Quote, the bees can be trained within 10 minutes, says the artist, the designer. Quote, training simply consists of exposing that bee to a specific odor and then feeding them with the solution of water and sugar. Therefore, they associate that odor with a food reward on the inside of the chamber. So I see. They put the food on the inside bubble, then they waft some cancer smells in there, and so the bee knows that's where I go to food when I smell the odor. I go to the food when I smell the odor. So when they smell the odor, they go where they think the food is. It's a pretty ingenious little contraption. It's pretty clever. Says there's plenty of interest in the project, especially from charities and further applications, as a cost-effective early detection of illness, specifically in developing countries. Right. Can you imagine you're in a third world country, a country that does not have really great access to medical equipment, but you could have a bottle of sterilization solution. You could have a couple of these contraptions, and so long as you could keep them out of the hands of drug addicts, because they do look like the world's coolest bongs, you could have some people in some villages that maybe wouldn't otherwise know they had HIV or cancer or AIDS or whatever, blowing into these using honeybees to determine quickly whether they needed to be on the next carriage into the medical center in town or not. That may save some lives. So here's the project description. They say, it's pretty clear at this point, but they say that bees explore how we might cohabit with natural biological systems and use their potential to increase our perceptive abilities. So the objects facilitate bees' odor detection abilities in human breath. Bees can be trained within 10 minutes using a Pavlovian reflex response to target a wide range of naturally occurring and man-made occurring chemicals, and odors, including the biomarkers associated with disease. So that's how it works. The bee is trained that when it smells the disease, it goes into the inner little pocket, the inner chamber, and it eats its food. It's known that that's where its food goes. So when it smells the disease, it goes to the food. Bees smelling whether or not you are sick. Now imagine this. This is why I started this video out this way. Imagine it's like 1100 AD, and you are coughing and you're sick and you don't know what's wrong and it won't go away, and you go to like the town sorcerer. I don't know, it's the Middle Ages. You go to the town sorcerer and he says, breathe into this jar. And they're like, there's a bee in that jar. It'll fly down my throat and I will get stung. He says, no, the bee is on the inside bubble, and I've trained it to come outside if it smells sickliness or unwellness in you. I don't know. You can imagine, though, that the same people who would have believed, like Merlin and the sorcerers, like, you know, the people with the capes and the goofy hats that thought that they could take any old metal and create an alloy and make it gold, thinking that you could take, you know, fruit and turn it magically into a potion that would, you know, make you be able to see and reason and feel emotions better, like wine. Fermentation's been around forever, but not everyone gets it, so some people think that's magic. Maybe ESP, right? Reading people's thoughts. Is that a science that we are just not aware of yet? Or are we too low frequency to get to that point yet in our evolution? But maybe in 1,000 years, we'll look back on something and say, oh, they thought mind reading was magic or like, you know, nonsense? No, they just didn't know how to turn on the whatever. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I thought this was interesting. And yes, it's old news, but it's good news. You should be sharing this with people. Tell people, hey, did you know that at least for the last like 7 years, probably longer, our powers that be have known easily how to detect cancer with like the most cheap and effective medical equipment possible? Live honeybees in a jar? Let me know what you think. Share this video, like the channel, subscribe. Thank you all for your support. It's been amazing to see. And I can't wait to keep it up with you as we all keep America not stung, but keeping it afloat.